What's up, guys? It's Jughead here, just a down-to-earth guy trying to bring you some down-to-earth content. Welcome back to my Let's Watch Hunter x Hunter series. Today we are going to be watching episode 52, Assault and Impact, I believe. Now, let's get this out of the way. I made a community post yesterday, and today I am attempting to record. If you read that community post, it was me saying two things. One, I am upgrading my camera equipment. So someday soon, once I pick up the camera, once it's ready, and once I get all the equipment ready, I'm going to have a mirrorless, high quality camera, a Sony a7 III, that will improve camera quality immensely. Two, I got Invisalign aligners, and I am currently trying to relearn how to speak properly, because as you can tell, I have sort of a lisp because there's plastic behind my teeth where the aligners are hitting my tongue, and it kind of forces you to have to relearn how to pronounce certain letters, pronounce certain words. And I figured there's no better way to relearn than by recording YouTube videos where I talk the most and talk for extended periods of time. So I'm sorry if it's going to annoy you that I can't pronounce S's exactly correct and I can't pronounce D's exactly correct. You're going to hear some THs in there, and I'm going to talk slower, and I might take more pauses because this is just annoying. So give me some time to acclimate and adapt to how I'm supposed to be speaking. But I'm not taking a 33-week break from YouTube. I have to have these on for 33 weeks. I have 33 different trays of aligners that I have to switch out every single week for the next 33 weeks. I am not taking a 33-week break. I guess we're just going to have to experience this together if my speech gets better or not. But episode 52, Assault and Impact. Oh, before episode 52, the one talking point I wanted to bring up from episode 51 was we had this mini conversation or correction that you guys gave me in the comments of episode 51, where Chrollo was observing Neon's ability and the fact that he could see it without using Gyo. You guys said Chrollo didn't have to use Gyo to see Neon's Ghost Rider, but Uvogin had to use Gyo to see Kurapika's chains. But is that because I'm just confused on that, of why Chrollo didn't have to use Gyo to see the Ghost Rider when it's not the apparent case that anybody that's a Nen user can just view Nen? Or was it because of the fact that Neon doesn't know that she's a Nen user, so she didn't actively conceal her Nen that would require Gyo to see it anyways? I'm just confused on that. If you want to correct me a second time, that would be great, because I was just wondering that, of Chrollo not having to use Gyo to see the Ghost Rider, but Uvogin had to use Gyo to see Kurapika's actual chains. Because we know that Kurapika conceals the chains. The chains are always invisible. It's just that for the show's purposes, we use Gyo as an audience to see them. Otherwise, they're invisible. The only reason we see them is so it's easier for the audience to follow, and because Kurapika and Uvogin were using Gyo, so we as an audience can see the chains too. But they're invisible all the time, from what I understand. Boom. But going on to episode 52, we gotta stop teasing, okay? This episode has to have Silva and Zeno, okay? Enough teasing me. We saw them last episode. They're here in town. They're hired. They're working alone. We need to see them today. I want to see Killua and Gon reunited with Kurapika, and I want to see Silva and Zeno in action. Stop teasing me. Let's get this going, okay? Please. Please, please, please. The last episode was amazing in terms of allegory and exposition and character development for Chrollo. We need some Nen combat, some Nen battles. I need to see the Zoldycks in action. I don't need the entire cast together in an ensemble, but I need to see this. I just need to be satisfied. I am horny for some Nen. Okay, enough talking out of me. Hopefully the audio is also okay too, because I'm also tweaking some audio filters in my recording software and how I sound mix audio while I edit. So hopefully the audio is not worse because I'm experimenting here. So if this episode is action-packed and is insane, and then the audio ends up not being very good, I'm going to be depressed. But let's move on to episode 52. I may be a little less talkative during the reaction portion while I'm watching, only because, I want to save my energy and my lisping for the discussion that we're going to have afterwards. Who knows how that's going to go, Jesus Christ. But I will see you in 2 seconds. Okay, so Hunter x Hunter, episode 52, Assault and Impact. Oh my God, it is so hard for me to try and get my S's out, not sounding like Mike Tyson. Jesus Christ. Okay, episode 52, Assault and Impact in 3, 2, 1, let's party. Please. This is the summary of the last episode. Please give me fucking Zeno and Silva. Let me see Chrollo actually use offensive abilities. Not just his indoor fish. I want to see what that goddamn book is about. I want to see him in an arena battling people that we know are very powerful. Let's match him up. We're going to skip this. Our boys, so they are going to be in this episode. I'm happy to see that. Is he going to see... Emergency stop. Are we going to be seeing them reunite with Kurapika? And prove their Nen training? Oh, so okay, so we're seeing everything converge in the same present timeline. Boom. Oh, so yeah. So while they escaped Nobunaga, of course that makes sense. They immediately went on a subway to find Kurapika, and that's when the Dark Sonata took place. Not the Dark Sonata. What am I thinking? The Requiem took place. Yeah, Light and Neon need to get out of here. That stern look on Kurapika's face. What is he thinking? Kurapika's brain. He knows. That conjures personality test. Never a step behind. Don't deviate from the plan, dude. That's not good. Kurapika should be on the front lines. Or not, because they're actively searching for him. But they've already done everything. Chrollo's threw Neon away. They don't need him anymore. Is he going to get sliced in half? Uh-oh. Is that Chrollo? Wasn't expecting that. What the hell just happened? It always blows my mind how calm they all speak. Like, your guys are getting murdered out there, and you're just talking calmly. But I guess that is the world of Hunter x Hunter. You can't trust nobody. I don't even trust this doctor. Use the dowsing chain. Dowsing chain. But could a person use Nen if they knew what the dowsing train was capable of doing? Could they use Nen to conceal their own dishonesty and how in real life you can pass a polygraph test? Yeah, just like when Leorio, Kurapika, and Gon were trying to make it to the airport, ditch that cab in traffic, and just whoo. That's what I'm saying, but Light's saying no. I'd be like, shut the fuck up, Ponytail. Thank you. Dude, shut up. I'm sorry, but all I care about is where's Silva and Zeno. What are they doing? What are they up to? Bitch, the auction ain't happening right now. Do you think it's still on? Huh? True, that's what they said about the mafia in the early episodes. That makes sense why they're all kind of gung ho and feigning confidence. They want to prove yourself, move yourself up the ranks in the mafia, earn your place. I'm gonna say they've already lost control. B. Killua and is this the first time they're speaking? Now you have somebody. Now you have two others to protect. Now you have two other people to protect. Let Killua is the straight faced. I'm hyped. Kurapika. I mean, Hisoka. You should know those two kids well enough to know that they're not going to listen to you. Hell yeah. Like I said, you should know they're not going to listen to you. You should also know that there are 1 in 10 million kids, 2 in 20 million. Kurapika is, what would you say, conflicted He has a job to do, but this is the first time he's hearing the voices of his friends again. Bring him back to the light side a bit. When's the last time he's heard the word friend? What's gonna happen? Oh god. How's this guy about to die? Who's coming out from behind? Is your head gonna get chopped off? Oh. Oh, he's being controlled by Shalnark, yep. Now they have to go... That has to mess you up with in your head so much you have to kill your own men. Where are Zeno and Silva? I wish Killua knew that his parents or that his family was in town. Like if Kurapika kind of just mentioned that, but they're so sinister. They're probably my two favorites right now. What their names? Phaeton and Finks. Because I just love that physicality. $2,000 men wiped out for the Requiem. There's the troop member in the building. The fact that you would not question or look for the guy that was with her, and you would not suspect the guy who catched her when she collapsed. I don't like what? Yeah, I think in cases like these, rules are meant to be broken. Is that Corpy? Oh, never mind. I saw pale skin. We'll do all the work here. Is this the first time? Like, how rare is it to see their faces? And they're not worried at all. Another pen to the back of the head. That's Chrollo right there. You stood no chance. Damn. You're just a liability with a gun in your hands. I love this music. Another pen to the back of the... Okay. How many pens does this dude have? That was cool. Oh, is that how that guy in the hallway died? Because we didn't see the back of his head. He had a pen in the back of his head. Just enough to say a sentence and then collapse. I forget what that is. But it's exhausting. Oh, is it the thing that... Wait, was that in or... I forget. Damn it. I need to learn these advanced techniques. Is that the orb that you can sense anything? Is Kurapika gonna try and... What if they bump into each other and she's like... And he's like... God damn it, why do I say she? We're 52 episodes in. Am I an idiot? Is he going to bump into them and be like, I just talked to your son on the phone. He's here. I can't do that, sir. Damn it. This looks like an arena for battle. This looks like a good arena, good-sized room to have a battle. Fuck yes. Okay. We meet again. Silva killed one of your people. Mm-hmm. Is that who Shizuku replaced? Because we know Hisoka replaced the person he killed. What? So he's a specialist. He conjured with indoor fish, meaning he's a specialist as well. If you have a technique where you can steal other people's techniques, I assume by touch. Or something more complicated, maybe. Ooh. Holy shit. I'm loving this too. You know they've trained together. Very capable on their own, individually, but they've trained fighting together. Is he an enhancer? Enhanced hair? Good enough to... What? Wait, let me read that again. A tenth of a milligram will completely paralyze a whale. Damn. Yes. But there has to be a limitation of this to make it more powerful. Yes. Must have its drawbacks and limitations. Has to be the fucking book. You must clear 4 or 5 can... Wow. Oh, yeah. Something as powerful as that. It has... You almost have like a chart in your head. Exactly. He has to be a conjurer too, maybe. He has to be a conjurer with a brain like that, because he speaks like Kurapika. Oh, shit. What is his ability? I'm guessing conjure. Just because of the way he spoke, it sounded a lot like how Kurapika speaks. He conjured the book. He is a conjurer. Skill hunter. So that's him stealing moves. He stole Owl's move. So while he's fighting, he cannot do any of this. He has to rely on distance. Is he going to shrink himself down? So that book is, it keeps, it's like a diary, a journal of all the moves he's stolen. That's why he's always looking at his book. Dragon head. Or is he an emitter? He's an emitter, right? Because he's... When he uses another ability, he has to cancel that one. Oh, yeah. So only one hand is ever free. So that's a limitation. Yeah, you can't take the offensive. He's trying to close the gap so he can use another tool. Oh, he's going to try and shrink him down and capture him. Okay. So he's not good at offense, but that's kind of like what the Phantom Troop is about. He hires everybody else to be as offensive out in the front lines, but he's good in the back. Oh, so they fought a while ago. What, 3 years ago, I think? Probably because that's when the last time they all met together, right, was 3 years ago. That's what Machi, I think, said. And Shizuku's the new member, and Shizuku replaced the person that Silva killed. He has to be an emitter. What the fuck? It's cool they both emit purple aura. I'm pleased. I'm pleased. I got my rocks off. Blue balls have subsided. I am satisfied with the Nen we have witnessed today. So, let's discuss, shall we? Everything I've been waiting for the past handful of episodes finally arrived. I've been given my fill. We followed Chrollo almost entirely last episode, gaining, amazing characterization, watching one of the top ranked moments of the whole series, the Requiem, to getting so many of my questions answered today, seeing Chrollo in combat, learning his abilities face to face with Silva and Zeno, no less. I'm so happy. It was time for the big boys to come out and play today. I either said it last episode discussion or the one before, where all these different plot threads are big enough and crafted so well enough on their own that they could carry an arc on their own or be at the centerfold on them by themselves, but instead they're neatly intertwined, and that takes guts, that takes balls as much as it takes a master hand at writing to risk so much, because that is very risky. To risk so much, but count on two things. You count on your audience to eagerly keep up and understand. You don't slow down or you don't look in the rearview mirror to see if they're following you. You just trust that they are. And you count on your own writing. I don't know how long this discussion is going to be, but it won't be a short one. I think the first thing I have to say is, damn, Chrollo is downright deadly with the paper mate. I didn't see the pen in the back of the assassin's head the first time around, but on my second watch through, I just thought he randomly collapsed to the floor somehow when he quite clearly had a pentel poking out the back of his noggin. How many pens does this guy keep in his pockets? I don't know, because he took at least out like 5 dudes with a pen. Okay, it's like putting John Wick up for his money. But dude, Kurapika hearing Gon's voice for the first time in what feels like eons, that meant a big deal to me. How many goddamn episodes have been waiting for these two arcs to be brought together, literally speaking and literarily speaking? Kurapika even answers the phone with, "Is this Gon?" Like he had completely forgotten his past, the friends he had, the life before traveling his road to damnation and vengeance, what that was like. But that old familiar voice from the kid who can charm anyone brings him right back for a moment, triggers that little something in his mind, and he remembers. He remembers there are people out there who care about him and that he cares about and are his friends. Otherwise, he would have hung up that phone and called back later like he said he wanted to. Instead, like Gon pleads, he gave Gon that 1 minute. And the seriousness of this phone call feels a little like almost unsettling when they're brokering and trading for information like who knows who. It contrasts how we watched them interact together before, like like the past that we know is dead. This is how it is now. It really makes bare the fact you have to remember that these are just kids. All three of them are coming fresh off the heels of just learning then, and they're thrust into this, mixed up with assassins and Nen masters and killers. Kurapika is just a teenager, yet here during this phone call is compelled to act as more of a parent figure. And I love that Killua, when he takes the phone, is the one to tell Kurapika, if you won't treat us as friends or equals, we'll do whatever we must to help. Killua is the one to tell Kurapika, hey, we're your friends. First, you don't even want to give us a minute out of your time. Now you insult us like we're not your friends or your equals. We just want to help. It's just powerful to hear Killua talk about friendship considering his character arc so far. Now, Kurapika is conflicted. He has a duty to fulfill with his own desires for vengeance and such, to continue working alone. But now he has to worry about the safety and the lives of his friends who have been partially dragged into this because of him in a small way. And now they are really dragged into this because they do know who the train user is. And you really can't have the troop finding that out. Gon and Killua are getting involved, whether Kurapika likes it or not. So he's got to manage this somehow. He's being bogged down and held back by Light and Estrad. Uh, and now what? He was completely okay with destroying himself or killing himself when it was only him. But now he has Killua and Gon on the other end of this phone line, who he has to say to, I will not have you two getting yourselves killed. The lives of two friends are now intertwined with the fate of his own soul. Are his goals worth such an added cost? What is his business, or was his business, his quest for revenge, is not just his own any longer. Gon wasn't the one to get through to Kurapika, interestingly enough. It was Killua with that line that he said, with or without your help, we're fighting. This isn't just your fight. It may still be personal to you in some regard, but there are greater consequences now, and more are entering the battlefield. And you got the mafia dying by the literal thousands outside. Literally, 2,000 people have been slaughtered by the troop. Talk about a requiem, okay? And I was wondering why they all speak so calmly and just throw themselves out into the front lines, fighting and dying in the streets, begging for their guns. But it makes sense. I remember in the earlier episodes when the mafia was sort of just originally introduced and explained, all these mafia members are trying to prove themselves, win favor amongst the higher ranks and the dons. It's an inner competition. And this is one of the things I love about Hunter x Hunter and the ambiguity of morality. The mafia, by definition, the mafia have existed in the real world. Mafia movies, the mafia history. Mafia, by definition, are not good people, but it's not like we're rooting against them. Same with the troop. What side are we all on? We're just cheering in general. Fighting the spiders is the right thing, right? Because they're evil. And that's how morality works, but not in this world. And to root for the assassins, to think of them as the good guys, it's pretty awesome. And Silva, the man we know who is banking on his son's failure, is an assassin first and a father second in a weird way. You know, these killers, I kind of want them to win. I want them to kick ass. Like, hey, the Zoldycks as a family have probably killed multiple times more than the troop ever have, even with the 2,000 killed here today alone. But the Zoldycks don't relish in the act of killing. This isn't a game or a thrill. It's a job. Taking lives is strictly business. The troop, they put on a whole fucking Requiem symphony thing that Hisoka himself doesn't even want to participate in. You know, it's interesting when Hisoka and the Zoldycks align philosophically or ethically more so than anyone else. The only question would be if Hisoka sees his two boys join the fight, Killua and Gon, would he jump down from that ledge and protect his ventured interests, his investments, protecting his fruit until they're ripe? Uh, he won't allow them to be killed by any other hand than his own or let them perish before their own true potential is realized. That's what I'm interested in seeing too. But let's talk about the real meat and potatoes here. Silva, Zeno, Chrollo, all three in the same room together at last. Two have met before. We hear it said, "We meet again. Do you remember me? How could I not? You killed one of my people." Boom. So much information to connect the dots in my mind in just a 5 to 10 second back and forth conversation. Silva and Chrollo have met before. Not just that, they have fought before. Silva killed one of the spiders. He wasn't able to kill Chrollo, though, and I suspect Chrollo was the true target, but all he walked away with was having one of the spiders killed. The one Shizuku replaced is the one that Silva killed. We know Shizuku and Hisoka are the two newest members. Hisoka himself killed the man he replaced, as is one of the rules of the troop. You take the place of the man you kill if you so wish to join. Silva killed the other of the two losses, meaning Chrollo recruited Shizuku. I didn't know if we already knew that or not, but now I know that for sure. So I have to maybe approximate this took place around 3 years ago, because when all the troop members gather at their base, they make remarks that this is the first time the group is meeting each other and coming together as a group again in 3 years. And people are seeing the fresh faces. So I think 3 years. I don't know though. That's just the approximate guess I'm giving. But having fought Chrollo, Silva knows that Chrollo's ability is stealing other Nen users' techniques. And the thing I really took under consideration while watching this whole sequence, um, what I thought about is this thing. The Zoldycks are assassins. They almost exclusively operate alone in whatever contracts they accept. But it is clear the two have also heavily trained to fight together side by side as a duo. Zeno is Silva's father, after all. You can imagine when Zeno went through training, went through training his son in the family tradition in the art of assassination. A product of that included their ability to work and fight together very effectively. They're like an army of two. The most important chapter of this discussion today, however, begins here. That is what I wanted to preface, but this is where the real chapter of this conversation begins. We need to thoroughly analyze these three Nen users. We need to comment on their presence on the battlefield. We need to break down their techniques and use that information in our attempt to categorize them in one of the five Nen types, not including the sixth specialization spot. Let's start with Zeno, because he is the most imposing man of the three, in my opinion, based off his performance. Even his cadence when he speaks kind of gives you goosebumps. Like when he told the group of men he could kill them all in under 7 seconds. So shut up if you want to live. So before the action even begins, we do get a vague understanding of his power. Zeno stated point blank, period, nonchalantly, that he could use N up to 300 meters, an advanced technique combining both Ten and Ren, I believe. I believe it was only ever first seen just 2 episodes ago by Nobunaga. And I believe they did this purposely so we could see it utilized by a Nen master, a troop member, have it visualized to us the range that Nobunaga can deploy it at. Of course, was most likely not his maximum range. I'd say he could have covered more than half that building with his N to detect them, but probably not more than that. Otherwise, wouldn't he have known that they were already outside the building when Gon and Killua escaped if he could extend that range that far? So maybe what? Let's just go with the standard 100 foot. 100 feet around him in all directions, I could imagine, is what he could do. What is that? Conversion rate from feet to meters, 100 feet, 30, around 30 meters. There has to be some decimals in there. 30 meters, since we're speaking in meters here. Zeno can do 10 times that. Zeno, if he's so elected, could use N up to 300 meters around him. Zeno clearly possesses an extraordinary power output. He never tires throughout this fight, in conjunction with all of his other actions, and he knows he is capable of what even he admits is an exhausting technique, but not to him, meaning he is not only tremendously powerful, but his aura reserves must be vast as well, that he can just keep pulling from. Obviously, one of the most powerful, one of the most skilled, and one of the wisest Nen users introduced so far. Among the likes of only Netero, you know, we've seen, only other person I can think of to be up there on a tier list, which, makes sense. So many years under your belt dedicated to the art of Nen, perfecting your techniques, building up your aura, as well as gaining massive amounts of knowledge, intelligence, and experience when it comes to Nen theory. A lot comes with time. Unlike real life, in the world of Hunter x Hunter, the older you get, the more powerful you become, especially for those who have mastered enhancement, even. You can physically slow down aging, heal themselves. And Zeno, he has an incredible level of Nen knowledge, like I just stated. I don't know how old he is, because again, with this sense, with being able to slow down aging through enhancement, plus the average lifespan may just be longer in this world of Hunter x Hunter. Um, has it's given Zeno much time to learn the concepts and learn Nen theory to the point he could read Chrollo like a book. He even said out loud, I would consider you a threat if you could freely use the powers you steal. However, you must take risks to take those abilities. A technique that strong must have drawbacks. And of course, the drawbacks being conditions, limitations, vows, what have you. And I guess you must clear 4 or 5 conditions before you can steal an ability. He could guess just from the short, general, vague description of Chrollo's ability that he must meet at least 4 or 5 conditions upon conditions in order to achieve such a powerful technique. Um, I find it so cool. Someone so knowledgeable in Nen basically has, conversion charts, tables, notes just memorized in his head, and it just makes me think of, I don't know how many other chemistry people can relate to this, but it's like, after having studied chemistry for so long in school, I have solubility tables, polyatomic ion charts, special decomposition reactions, Vesper geometries, and all this just other stoichiometric equations, all memorized and stuck in my head forever, even though I don't know the last time I ever even used that information for anything. Like, if Zeno witnessed or heard of Kurapika's ability, Chain Jail, he would He would know Kurapika must have set multiple conditions, one of them being an end all be all ultimate condition, a literal deadly condition to reach that potential. And if he heard that condition was that condition included staking his own life on it, he would completely understand that level of resolve. He would know what kind of power that uh, equals, and he would respect the hell out of that probably as well. Same with Emperor Time. Zeno would know a specialist ability like Emperor Time has to literally eat you away. And I can't actually wish enough for Kurapika and the Zoldycks. Just be in the same room together, just conversing amongst each other. That's all I want, let alone in combat together. I just want others to bear witness to Kurapika's abilities, Kurapika's chains. And and when Zeno tells Silva, kill him, even if you have to kill me with him. What it means to be an assassin in that family, the training he has instilled in his son. Silva does not question. He understands and he follows orders. I just thought that speaks volumes upon volumes what it means to be a Zoldyck assassin, what it meant for Killua, what he's been instilled with, the only thing that he's understood in the past before meeting Gon. Um, I did want to guess Zeno was a conjurer at first, only because of his intensely analytical thinking and speaking, very observant, um, cautious. He does indeed speak a lot like Kurapika, and going by my personality analysis and those assessments that I've made using that have been accurate up to this point. So I would have placed him as a conjurer, but he used omission so easily, which is the most difficult for a conjurer to master. Even if you are someone like Zeno, I think he needs to be closer to a mission on the spectrum, on the chart. Plus, I didn't take it into account his main personality and character type. He's an assassin, he's a Zoldyck. Does his personality as such fit more as a transmuter than a conjurer? I think so. The more that I consider his techniques and how they function, which is what we're going to get into. Right at the beginning of their face off, Zeno was able to project his aura outward from his open hand. Where's the camera? As his open hand, as pure energy. You can tell from its color and lack of shape, a pure aura blast, which is a mission through and through. It remained attached to his body, unlike, say, Franklin with his machine gun bullets. So, not a pure projectile, but definitely a mission nonetheless. And then he uses one of his techniques called Dragon Head, which leads me to this contention in my mind. It tests my Nen knowledge, my comprehension skills. He had his aura focused in his hand, and then an aura energy ball appears in the palm of his hand. It grows from maybe quarter size, larger and larger, until it almost explosively expands into that of a dragon head, literally the head of a dragon, hence the name. But that's just dragon head. Then he uses his hands to control the dragon, and the dragon attacks, flying forward to Chrollo's direction. And this is called Dragon's Lance. This made me think he's an emitter because at first I was like, okay, this is Nen energy being projected to an enemy. We saw him we saw him just use emission earlier, so this has to be similar. But wait, it's in the form of a dragon. It's taken an actual shape created by Zeno, and it's purple, whereas it wasn't before. He's changed the physical properties of his aura. That is transmutation. As well as the fact, if you pay attention closely, I only noticed this on my second watch, the purple aura that is the dragon continues to extend from his hands, from his arms, but never detaches. The dragon is still an extension of himself. He just guides it along with his hand movements, similar to Hisoka with his bungee gum, which leads me to believe more that Zeno is a transmuter who crosses over into a mission and uses both for his techniques. Not only that, but when the dragon bites down onto Chrollo, trapping him against the wall, Zeno uses it almost like a tether, a slingshot, a transporter. I don't know what the hell you want to call it, but he swiftly travels, transports from his original point to the head of the dragon, to the end of his aura through this aura pathway, like it pulls him like a rubber band, transporting him from one point to the next, allowing him to quickly close the gap. Regardless how far he extended, no matter how far that slinky extended, whew, so he is quick too. This is further proven by the speed of the punches he lays into Chrollo in fights and stuff that get repeatedly blocked, allowing Silva to take his shot. So it appears Zeno is also just as quick as Chrollo and Silva. And we know Silva has tapped into a enhancement. Obviously, Zeno has to have also, which would make sense if he's a transmuter using a mission, which is 2 steps away from transmutation. One of those closer steps is enhancement. Of course, he would, if you're going to bypass enhancement to get into a mission, I'm sure you've put some points into enhancement yourself. Zeno is most likely a transmuter. So, with him out of the way, we move on to Silva. We don't see as much from Silva as we do from Zeno, but Silva says, takes a quality knife to scratch me. Like I mentioned a minute ago, Silva must have mastered enhancement. Only special knives can wound his skin, even cut his skin, let alone survive the poison that was on that blade. His skin must be reinforced like that of Uvogan's, but, to a lesser extent. Since Uvogan was a natural enhancer, he will always be more strong in enhancement, but still, this can also go through what am I trying to say? This survival can also just go through his training that references training that he is immune to poison. Jesus, that was so complicated to get out. Killua referenced multiple times such training. He was able to drink multiple cans of topaz juice because he is immune to all poisons, as well as been conditioned to withstand electrocution from his torture training. He Zeno also uses a strand of his own hair to wrap his arm, which is impressive. But I don't know if he wrapped it or if he stitched it. I don't know. Either way, it's impressive, but it makes sense that a single strand of hair is so strong if his body is fortified through 9 enhancement. That includes your hair. When Zeno shouts for Silva to attack while he has Chrollo trapped in his dragon's bite, Silva, just like his father, creates a small purple orb of energy in the palm of his hand that expands. Only in Silva's case, 2 huge spherical orbs emanate from his hands. He holds each in either hand, and they continue to grow and grow. You got these gigantic spheres of energy, what looks like electricity around them, and electricity traveling his arms. I don't remember if he lifts them above his head just prior to this, but as though he combines them together I do think he hurled them at Chrollo, like combining them like a nuclear detonation, like the joining of 2 atoms, producing this massive explosion that we don't get to see, we only hear. The purple orb Silva creates at the beginning looks like a lot like the same orb his father Zeno created, both purple, both aura from the hands, both take specific perfect shape. Because Silva literally has 2 perfect spheres of plasma looking like energy in his hand. So that makes me want to believe Silva is a transmuter as well, who has mastered enhancement and also put some skill points into emission. I say that because if we already got 2 out of the 3, let's just have 3 out of the 3 be transmuters. It would be cool if every Zoldyck is a transmuter. Or if not every single Zoldyck, I don't know what Killua's siblings are. if not every, then just the best of the generation ends up a transmuter. The one who takes after their father best, as their father is the one who trained them, essentially shaped them to be who they are. Therefore, wouldn't their Nen aura be influenced by them? That's pretty much a fundamental concept that Wing says. It's almost like passed down through blood in a way. Zeno was the head of the Zoldyck family in his prime, ultra powerful, the silver flowing hair, transmuter. He has a son, Silva, who he trains mercilessly and tirelessly. He has the same flowing hair, super powerful, he's a big man, really upholds to these traditions, very strong, also a transmuter. He bears a son, Killua, silver hair, the best assassin in family history according to Zeno, and his father sees it too. Same personalities, but Killua has deviated, become his own person. So that would be cool. Trio of transmuters. That's the logic I'm using here. And lastly, let's move on to Chrollo, who we don't see do much physically in terms of Nen, but a lot is revealed. We see he must carry a highly poisonous knife on him to keep foes at a distance because his specialist ability can't be utilized very well or really even activated at all if dealing in close quarters hand to hand combat. Sure, he can conjure, which he does, um, which is, and albeit is still difficult to do if you have enemies coming at you because one hand is going to be taken. But he can't actually use his main specialist ability, which is the act of stealing the ability from the target whilst fighting, proven by the poison knife, needing that poison knife. He needs to keep a distance in order to activate his specialist ability, and then depending on the technique he pulls from the book, he then has to close the gap somehow with only one free hand. Chrollo conjures his book in his right hand. I don't know if his hand matters, if it has to be conjured in his right hand, because that handprint on the cover of his book is that of a right hand, but he doesn't need to place his hand on that print as we see to open or use the book. So I assume that hand instead signifies where his enemy's hand must go. There's literally no other explanation for that. That transfers their techniques to his book, because the book is what possesses each of the stolen abilities. We catch a glimpse of the book open that each couple pages holds a different ability from a different victim. We see Owl's photograph, some accompanying description paragraphs, and we see Chrollo use Owl's ability. He conjures the sheet, blanket, whatever it is, and tried to use it to hopefully capture Zeno, but Zeno had no reason to keep his distance. And I don't know what all 5 limitations or conditions are, as Zeno said. I don't even know if that's that many, but some of them are apparent. Chrollo must have the book open in his hand, only allowing one arm free to fight with. You only got the other arm to fight, hold something, conjure something, block whatever, and the book must stay open for the abilities to stay active to use. Once the book closes, his specialist ability, whatever he chose to use, vanishes. He must also flip the page to the ability he wants to use, and he has to end one ability and flip the page in order to trigger another one. These are just general physical limitations for Chrollo. Like, he must have the book in his hand, so he only has one arm to work with for anything else. Blah 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 blah. But I don't know about Nen limitations or Nen conditions. I don't know what those 4 or 5 could be. And this was just a guess by Zeno. Like I said, he doesn't know, and I don't know if it's actually 5. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. I have no clue. Only that there has to be multiple. Because Chrollo in his inner monologue acknowledges that Zeno is correct. And I just said this moments earlier, the handprint on his book, Bandit's Secret it's called, most likely has to be touched by his victim's palm. They must place their palm on the cover of the book. Since that's obviously not meant for his own hand, it has to be for them. So that has to be one of the conditions, I assume, which is indeed hard to achieve, to get that close to your enemy and not be killed by them, and somehow then subdue or incapacitate them to get their hand on the book. Also, if we're talking about Nen, one's aura, a direct extension of oneself, analogous to your own life energy, how I see it, your chi, chakra, a living thing stemming from a living being. Having said that, I could see one of the limitations or conditions, whatever the word is, being that Chrollo loses the ability if the Nen user he stole it from dies. He can only use abilities stolen from people he keeps alive. He can't steal the ability and then just kill the person. He has to somehow keep them alive and keep them well. Because it's like the tether or the connection has been lost. The soul is gone, like pulling the plug from your router. Signal broken, connection lost. Similar to Greed Island, it's explained that the game continues to play while the player's inside until they die, upon which the game turns off for the next player. I think of it like that. But then again, we have seen during the episode where we first meet Zepile that auras can live on in the works well past the lifespan of the artists who created them. So I'm kind of torn on this one as a concept. The technique may only be merely borrowed from the original user, like just a transaction. It's in escrow in a way. It goes back to the original user once they die or they die with it, or it's just downright stolen, like the DNA or the data of the technique is stolen, it's hacked, and then infused into Chrollo's Nen DNA. So it stays alive with him. I don't know. I kind of want to go with the first option because it's repeatedly stressed how Nen is tied to your own personality, your own personal life experience. Therefore, your techniques require tapping into your own creativity. Hisoka's bungee gum and texture surprise are so strong and so unique because they're derived from his childhood, his personal experience. Nothing more personal than that. No one else could really recreate that because it's so unique. It's a one to one. Kurapika's conviction and drive to chain his enemies down to hell made him go that extra step. I can't wait to see what Gon takes from his childhood or his childlike nature when he develops his abilities when he does, because he's so straightforward and simple-minded. So I like to think abilities die with their creators. I also like to think maybe it's like the Patronus charm in Harry Potter, where it only works by using your own personal happiest memory. Maybe you can't fake it. Maybe Chrollo, he can use it, but he can't use it to its fullest power or potential because it's almost like a phony is using it. The true person's not using it. It's like a wizard trying to use somebody else's wand. Um, or yeah. Um, it's not true to him. I don't know. Hopefully, I find out more next episode. Otherwise, when he's fighting everyone else, that we find a lot more information. We still have Kurapika, Gon, and Killua to join the fight, and Hisoka to maybe make his move too. I'm excited for this next episode. We will see the result of that explosion, only heard by us and everyone else. We did not get to witness the aftermath. Obviously, neither Chrollo nor Zeno will be dead. Doesn't take a genius to know that. Perhaps injured, maybe? I don't know. Chrollo, he's our main antagonist. He ain't going nowhere. Zeno, what a fucking poor send-off that would be for a character as powerful as he is, whose character arc has literally only just left the starting gate. I suspect it will serve to attract attention from people. Kurapika's attention, and he'll investigate and join. Or perhaps the rest of the troop will collapse on their location, because they had to create quite a shockwave. Same for Killua and Gon. Will Killua and Gon run to the sound of chaos and join the fight? Whose faces are we seeing together side by side next? Is that big question. And who's dying is the other question. Because obviously, we're going to see some more corpses. That's what I'll have to wait until episode 53 to find out. So, with that, I think this is a great place to end today's discussion. If you made it to the end, before you go, how about you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? Keep the conversation going down in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And remember, I always offer early access and exclusive Let's Watch series to my supporters over on Patreon. Having said all that, and with that said, so long, farewell, until next time. Thank you, stay dangerous, be yourself, and I hope you have a good one. Peace.